in a quiet town where even the winds seemed to sigh with age. There stood an old watchmaker's shop named Moments and Memories. Its owner, Mr. Eliot, was a kind but lonely man who could fix any clock X, the one thing time had broken, his own heart. Years ago, he had lost his son in a tragic accident on a cold winter evening. Since that day, he stopped winding his own watch. He simply let time pass him by, one silent, unnoticed tick at a time. His world had fallen quiet, just like the hands of the watch on his wrist. But among the hundreds of clocks that filled his shop, from grandfathers to cuckoos, there was one that no customer ever noticed. It was small, made of bronze, and perpetually covered in a thin layer of dust. He never sold it, never even cleaned it, because it was the last thing his son had ever made on. It had stopped ticking on the very night the boy was gone. Every morning, with a heavy heart, Mr. Eliot would approach the small bronze clock and whisper the same words, "When you're ready, my boy, start again." But the clock remained still, a silent monument to his grief. One rainy evening, just as he was about to lock up, the little bell above the door chimed softly. A little girl entered the shop, her coat slightly torn and her shoes damp from the storm, but her eyes, they were as bright as stars, and they studied every single clock with a quiet intensity. She walked up to the counter and asked in a soft, hopeful voice, "Do you fix memories too?" Mr. Eliot managed a sad smile. "I wish I could, child. I truly wish I could." She gently placed a broken pocket watch on the worn wooden counter. "It was my mother's," she explained. "It stopped the night she left." Her small voice trembled just a little, but her gaze was steady. He took the watch gently into his hands, his fingers tracing the worn engraving on its back. "I'll do my best," he promised. As he carefully opened the watch, the tiny gears inside clicked like faint whispers of forgotten seconds. And for the first time in years, the old man felt something stir deep in his Chester familiar rhythm. A heartbeat he hadn't heard in so long. It felt like a ghost of a feeling, but it was there. He decided to work on it immediately. He stayed up all night, hunched over his workbench, the single lamp casting a warm glow on his focused face. He cleaned the delicate parts, mended the tiny broken pieces, and with a final, careful turn of a screw, the little watch began to tick softly, a steady, living pulse. At that very same moment, from somewhere deep in the shadows of his shop, another clock ticked once, just once. It was the bronze one. The next morning, the little girl returned, her face full of anticipation. When he handed her the fixed watch, her face lit up with a joy so pure it could have parted the clouds. "It's working," she cried, holding it to her ear. "Now I'll never forget her." Before running back out into the rain, she threw her small arms around him in a tight hug. Her warmth lingered long after she was gone, like a patch of sunlight breaking through the storm. Mr. Eliot turned slowly, his eyes drawn to the back of the shop. He walked toward the old bronze clock, the one his son had made. It was ticking again slowly but surely. He reached out and touched its cool surface. "You remembered me," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. And then the clock spoke. Not with words, but with a soft, single chime that seemed to carry a memory within its tone. Suddenly, the shop around him shimmered and dissolved. He wasn't standing in the present anymore. He was back in his workshop years ago. His son, young and full of life, was laughing beside him. The familiar smell of sawdust and metal filling the air. "Don't forget to wind it every night, Papa," the boy's voice echoed in the memory, "because time only forgets those who stop listening." When the sound faded, Mr. Eliot was back in his shop, tears glistening on his face. He looked at the hundreds of silent clocks surrounding him, and for the first time in a decade, he began to wind each and every one. The shop slowly came alive with sound, hundreds of ticks, chimes, and beats, all sinking into one beautiful, harmonious rhythm. It was the sound of life returning. Outside, the townspeople paused in their daily routines. The air felt different somehow, warmer, brighter. They could feel time flowing again, not just passing by. From that day on, people said that if you walked by moments and memories, you could hear more than just ticking, you could hear life itself. Remembering, Mr. Eliot continued fixing clocks until his very last breath, and when he finally passed away peacefully in his chair, the bronze clock on his desk stopped ticking again, but just for a moment. Then it started once more, strong, steady, eternal, and if you listened closely, really closely, between the ticks, you could almost hear his son's voice whisper, "See, Papa, time never really forgets, just waits for love to remind it." The story reminds us that we can't rewind time, but we can make it remember. We keep the past alive through love, kindness, and the precious moments we hold in our hearts. Thank you so much for watching. If this story touched you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more stories that warm the heart. We'll see you in the next one.